Legend amplifiers made amps in the late 70s and early 80s. Not much exists on the internet about Legend amps, but the group called the Outlaws apparently endorsed them. I had the opportunity to play and tune up an amp owned by Fred Crandal, who's a blues harmonica player out of Ypsilanti, Michigan. It's a beautiful amp. Wonderful craftsmanship, solid oak construction, tongue and groove. Really a beautiful instrument. These are just a couple pictures from the internet. There's one web page out there called Legend Amp Docs. Has this info on it. If you want more information, I bet you Billy Jones of the Outlaws is probably still alive somewhere. It's a very cool hybrid amp with a preamp section that's tube driven, and the power amp is solid state. Again, all this information is on that one web page, but there's not even anything on Wikipedia. They truly don't make them like this anymore. Gotta love this stuff from the early 80s. Beautiful sounding Celestion speakers. I think they're Alnico in this one speaker. Isn't that special? You can find this schematic online, at least as of March of 2020, COVID virus time. Thank you for listening. Okay, we're here to talk about a gorgeous example, pristine, vintage combo amp from the 70s, late 70s. This is a Legend A30 model, 30-watt amplifier. This amp is owned by a gentleman named Fred Crandal, friend of mine, who is a professional harp player, blues harp player, and it's really fantastic. There's a little video that he put up about this amplifier. He plays harmonica through it. I'll be playing a little guitar through it for you. So we did a little amp swap, my Fender Hot Rod Deluxe versus this, and having some fun. I gave it a little TLC, not much, but as you can see, the craftsmanship is just gorgeous for a 45-year-old amplifier. Oak cabinet, tongue and groove construction. It's got a foot switch, and I'll tell you a little bit. It's a spring reverb tank, cool old Celestion speaker. Not sure if it's an Alnico magnet or not, but what's interesting about this amp, it's a hybrid amp, and humming a little bit. It's a hybrid amp, so the preamp stage is tubes run by two 12AX7s. And the power amp in it is, the power stage is solid state, big transistors, power transistors. And it's got a big transformer. I'm sure it's got some big fat electrolytic capacitors which need to be replaced, which is why it's humming. But in any case, great amp. And the way it's laid out, there's two channels. But rather than having a bright channel and whatever, the designer allows you to get each channel as loud and as dirty as you want. So each channel 1 and 2 has a volume and a drive pot. So, and then they call the second stage tube drive, but that's just master volume, really. The presence and the reverb. So the presence is extremely active. This is a very, very bright amplifier, and a very clean amplifier. It's hard to break it up, in fact, and I'll show you how I get around that in a minute. And the reverb was overwhelming. I took the whole reverb tank apart and did a little bit of work with it. There was some warped, the cardboard base of it was warped, and that was interfering, but it's still a very, very overwhelming reverb. But I'm convinced that's the way it came from the factory, because there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. So we'll give this thing a listen. I'm playing through a late 90s Fender, American Fender Strat. Turn off my pedals. first. Great bass response. So you can hear that, just very chimey, like boxy, chimey, cool. And now I'll get a little dirty on it with the compressor and a tube screamer, and you'll hear that. See that amp? It's so clean, and the way it's set up, it just doesn't like to sustain, but you'll hear now it does.